Let's start out this video by talking about how we can optimize our workflow between Revit and Enscape to create a more efficient and predictable way of using Enscape on a daily basis, whether that's for design, as you're working on the design of a project, or in a presentation, as you sit down with a client or key stakeholders and have a more efficient way of navigating a model. The first thing we'll do is right-click on that view and rename it. We'll call it Enscape Export View. We're going to want to change the detail level to fine. Let me show you why we want to do that. If we go to the plan view and highlight this casework and click the selection box command, this just opened up a default 3D view. And you can see the poles showing up. If the detail level is set to coarse, or in some cases medium, you'll see some detail doesn't show up. When the detail view is set to coarse, things like columns, pipes, duct will all not show up in Enscape. Let me try and show you an example of that by raising the section box here. And if we look at these bar joists, for example, and the ductwork there, if I go to medium, the bar joists lose a little bit of definition, but we still see the ductwork. If I go to coarse, we see all the ductwork changes to single line, the bar joists are sort of indiscernible, and all the pipes are also missing. So we want to have it set to detail level fine to get the most impact within Enscape. So in this default 3D view that we'll export or start Enscape from, we'll always have this predictable level of detail within our model. The next thing we're going to want to do to make sure the lighting is accurate within our model, the daylighting, we're going to set our location on Earth and true north. I just opened up the site plan view, and on the Manage tab, we can select the location command. The default typically is Boston in any templates that come with Revit. I'll set mine to Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can type in a specific address, or you can drag this icon around if the site doesn't have an address yet. And then all plan views in Revit have an orientation parameter. This site plan is currently set to Project North. If I switch this to True North, you'll see nothing changes because in a brand new template, True North and Plan North are typically aligned. But now that we have this set to True North, I can go to the Position drop-down on the Manage tab, select Rotate True North, and then having developed from a site plan or working with a civil engineer, I may know that my true north is 35 degrees off of what we're using as Plan North. Plan North is primarily to get floor plans to position on a sheet and be able to work on them more easily. So now as we toggle back and forth between Project North and Plan North, we can see the difference there. We could leave this site plan set to True North, or we could duplicate that site plan view and have a site plan - True North if we want to have both options. Now when we go back to our Enscape export view, one additional thing we want to do is on the view control bar here in the lower left, we'll click on the sun icon, select Sun Settings, and the default in a 3D view is typically this lighting option under the Solar Study list, and this is sort of a generic over your right shoulder kind of fake lighting. So we're going to switch this to Still, which you can see now uses our location. We also have the ability to set the month, the day, and the year. So if we wanted to have it be September 21st, we're doing something related to the lead credit analysis and roughly noon, we could set that here. In Enscape, you can change the time of day in real time, but you cannot change the month and day. So we'll click OK to save those settings. One more thing that we'll do before we start Enscape is switch back to the plan view. And on the quick access toolbar, we'll select the camera command. We'll create a camera view that will allow us to quickly switch to different key talking points within the design, so that when we're working with a client or key stakeholder, we can jump around the model without necessarily having to navigate from one point to another. So when we start the camera command, on the options bar you can see the offset for the camera location, which essentially would be the eye level, is 5'6". We'll click a point just inside the front entry, and then our second point, the target point, we can also adjust the offset on the options bar. We'll just leave those as the default and click a point looking through the reception desk and past it a ways. In this view, we'll also want to make sure the detail level set to fine and the sun settings are set to still. We'll make the same adjustments here for this view. And then we'll also rename this view in the project browser. So Enscape main entry, maybe the discipline here is set to coordination, so that all of the Enscape views show up together. They could all be architectural also if you preferred. So now we have two views set up, and you could continue this process to set up an array of views that would allow you to jump around within the project. So within this 3D view, we'll start Enscape, and then we'll have this efficient, predictable way of opening Enscape to make sure we have the full level of detail and the time of day is accurate for our project location. Now that Enscape's open, I'll double click on a spot here in the model. We can see the shade or shadow that's being generated from the light shelves on the exterior. We can be confident that those are accurate for our particular design. And then if we want to switch to another vantage point as we're talking through our agenda, perhaps with a client, we go back to Revit on the Enscape tab, and in this drop-down list we'll go down to the Enscape views and switch to Enscape main model or main entry. And now we're standing in the front entry looking at the reception desk. And we could continue to add views just like that to be able to jump around the project without having to go down a hallway and up a stair shaft and potentially fly through walls. So that's a quick look at how we can organize our model to use Enscape in an efficient and predictable way with Revit.